Encouragement on Sadaqah. It is narrated from Hazrat Asma binte Abi Bakr that the Prophet said, Spend freely in the path of Allah on His trust, and do not count, how much do I have, and how much should I spend in the path of Allah. Let Allah counts against you. If you are going to spend in His path with calculation, then He will also give you with calculation. If you are going to give unlimited, then He will also bestow His innumerable blessings upon you. Do not withhold your money. Let Allah withholds from you, that the doors of mercy and blessings be closed on you. Spend what you can, hence, whatever little can be done, and you are able to should be given freely in the path of Allah, and not with the notion. And do not hoard the wealth and hide it, as Allah will do the same with you. Virtues of Sadaqah. Allah Ta'ala says, Allah destroys riba and nourishes charities, and Allah does not like any sinful disbeliever. It is narrated from Hazrat Anas that the Prophet said, Sadaqah appeases the Lord's anger and averts an evil death. Sadaqah cools down the torment of Allah and removes the big death. It is narrated by Hazrat Ali that the Prophet said, Give the Sadaqah without delay, for it stands in the way of calamity. It is narrated from Hazrat Abu Hurairah that Prophet said, Wealth does not diminish by giving Sadaqah, charity. Allah augments the honor of one who forgives, and one who serves another seeking the pleasure of Allah. Allah will exalt him in ranks. Obligation of Zakat. Zakat is obligatory once a year on every sane Muslim adult who is Sahib un-Nisab, owner of wealth above the level of Nisab. Details on Nisab is mentioned later. Hence, payment of Zakat is not obligatory on minor children, insane or poor people, who do not own wealth above the level of Nisab. Once a year means that a person has possessed wealth equivalent to the Nisab, and this wealth remains in his possession for a complete year. Then on the expiry of this year it will be wajib on him to give zakah for it. If a person possesses the Nisab at the beginning and at the end of the year, zakah will be wajib on the wealth possessed by the end of the year. By the Nisab decreasing during the course of the year, one is not absolved of giving one's zakah. Zakah is 1/40 or 2.5% of the total zakatable assets, wealth which a person possesses. Zakatable assets are gold, silver, trading assets, or cash. All other assets are not zakatable unless they are meant for trade and resale, like land, property, and items under one's use, etc. Sahib un-Nisab, owner of wealth above the level of Nisab. Whoever is the owner of Nisab-e-Zakat is called Sahib un-Nisab. The Nisab of Zakat is as below. Nisab is the minimum amount of wealth whose owner is deemed to be wealthy in the conception of Sharia, and zakah is obligatory on him. For example, one who owns 87.48 grams of gold, or 612.36 grams of silver, or its equivalent amount of cash or trading assets, etc. A person who has belongings other than these four things which are not for the purposes of trade, but are over and above his basic needs, like extra clothing and utensils, is also considered to be a rich person. It is not permissible to give zakah money to such a person. Furthermore, although he is regarded as a rich person, zakah is not wajib on him. However, Sadaqah al-Fitr and Qurbani are wajib on him. Hence, there is detail on whether zakat is obligatory on this person or not. Sadaqat al-Fitr and sacrifice is obligatory on the aforementioned person, who has excess wealth worth 613.35 grams of silver, but he doesn't own any gold, silver, cash, or any trading assets apart from that. He cannot receive zakah, but at the same time is not obliged to pay zakah. On the other hand, if someone owns cash, trading assets, gold, and silver equivalent to the value of 613.35 grams of silver, she is considered as wealthy in Sharia. Hence, zakat is obligatory on him. Recipients of Zakah. Allah says in the Holy Quran, the Sadaqah, prescribed alms, are meant only to be given to the poor, the needy, to those employees to collect them, to those whose hearts are to be won in the cause of the slaves, and those encumbered with debt, in the way of Allah, and to a wayfarer. This is an obligation prescribed by Allah. Allah is all-knowing, wise. There is a consensus amongst the jurists that the disbursement of zakah is solely confined to these 8 recipients. The Holy Prophet was once asked by a companion to give the latter zakah. The Holy Prophet replied, Allah has not assigned the right to distribute zakah to any prophet or anybody else. He himself has ordered about it, and has fixed 8 categories of recipients. If you qualify as being from amongst these, I will give you your right. In the light of these ayat, these 8 categories of zakat are discussed briefly. Poor and needy, fuqara and masakin. The fuqara and masakin are extremely poor persons. It means those who do not own any property or assets at all, or those who own property in excess of basic necessity, but the excess is below the value of nisab, whose details have been mentioned. They are eligible for receiving zakat. But those who are sahib un-nisab cannot be given zakat. Collectors of zakah, al-amilin. Al-amilin are those persons who are appointed by the Islamic State, or Muslim ruler, for the purpose of collecting zakah. Zakah can be given to them as the salary for their efforts in collecting zakah. Those whose hearts are to be won, al-mu'allafatu al-qulub. This category of recipients refers to the poor and needy Muslims, fuqara and masakin, who have converted to the religion recently. They are given zakah for the express purpose of strengthening their hearts and making them more inclined towards Islamic practices. To free the slaves. In the previous times, the slaves used to enter into a contract with his master, in terms of which the latter undertakes to free him, against payment of a fixed sum of money, which is known as mukatab. Sharia has made the payment of zakat permissible to them to help them to get free. Since there are no slaves nowadays, that is why this avenue is no more. People in debt, debtors. If a person is so much in debt that he doesn't have enough money for the payment of department, or his debts are such that if he were to fulfill his debts, he will not remain sahib un-nisab. In Allah's path, in the way of Allah, fi sabilillah. This category refers to mujahideen and hujjaj, pilgrims of Hajj who do not have enough money or resources to fulfill their needs. Traveler, wayfarer. This category refers to a traveler who, despite being wealthy at his place of residence, is in need during his journey. It is permissible to give such a traveler zakah, to the extent of his needs.